I must say I was quite impressed yesterday afternoon with how the EMLers unloaded the pavers, 120 pavers in like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. They had a system worked out. They were just going boom, 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 boom. Everybody was happy. Everybody was laughing. I thought the monastic should come out and see this. Yeah? Yeah. So maybe you could remember when you used to offer service with so much enthusiasm. Yeah? Yeah, see what happens when you get old? Yeah, you ordain, then the Dharma's old. Oh, I gotta go put pavers in the Buddha Hall. It's so. What?
You haven't seen the books?
No. But what I saw was people unloading books while people near them had sledgehammer and were going like this. I was thinking, oh, that was really good planning. Yeah.
We took a break right when the books came because we didn't want to keep spreading dirt on the books. So we used that as
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you didn't get, yeah. Okay. So let's start with imagining the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the space in front, ourselves surrounded by sentient beings. When you think of the sentient beings surrounding you that you're leading to take refuge and generate bodhicitta, it's not just the people you like. It's especially important that you do this with the people that you don't get along with.
To the teacher endowed, transcendent destroyer, one thus gone, for destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, one gone to bliss, nor the world supreme guide of beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans to you, the Buddha endowed, transcendent destroyer, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I bow. With pure bodies, form supremely fine, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain. Fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner the best, supreme guide, to you I bow. With a supreme sun's face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I bow. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not incomparable, wise one, to you I bow. Great, compassionate, protector, all-knowing teacher, field of merit and good qualities, vast as an ocean, to the Tathagatas I bow. Through purity, freeing from attachment, through virtue, freeing from the lower realms. Unique, supreme, ultimate reality, to the Dharma that is peace I bow. Having freed themselves, showing the path to freedom too, well established in the trainings. The holy field endowed with good qualities, to the Sangha I bow. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind completely, this is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame on a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble. A dream, a flash of lightning on clouds, see conditioned things as such. Through this merit may sentient beings attain the state of all seeing, subdue the full faults, and be delivered from the ocean of cyclic existence perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, Foreland, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Iram Guru Mandalakam Nirtayami.
I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by listening to the Dharma. I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by listening to the Dharma. I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by listening to the Dharma. I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. Let's generate our motivation. So when I said when we were taking refuge in generating bodhicitta, to visualize all sentient beings around, and you're leading them in doing that, and that it was especially important to think of you, not just the people you like and care about, but also the people that you don't get along with. And so somebody may have thought, I don't get along with those people. I don't like them. Why should I bring them into the visualization? Just even thinking about them bugs me. Well, the reason is this, that when we hold a grudge against somebody, they're just living their life, but we suffer. So holding a grudge doesn't harm somebody else. It doesn't make them do what we want them to do. But it does function to make us miserable. And the more we, from holding a grudge, develop the habit of being angry, resentful, bitter, then the more we implant or imprint on our mind stream that kind of mood, that kind of perspective on other living beings. And that's not a perspective or a mood that is joyful. And when we hold a grudge like that, yeah, we're really quite miserable. And it's not only our misery now, but when we hold grudges, when we leave other sentient beings out of the field of our compassion, then it's impossible to generate bodhicitta. Because bodhicitta, that aspiration to attain full awakening, is based on having love and compassion for each and every sentient being and wanting to attain awakening for the benefit of each and every sentient being. So if we leave even one sentient being out, then spiritually we are really impeding our own progress. So it isn't that we're bad for holding a grudge. It's that holding a grudge interferes with our spiritual life and creates a lot of suffering for us. Whereas when we see each and every living being as having the potential to become a Buddha, we respect them for that, and we have a more open and kind attitude towards them. And then it helps us spiritually, helps us emotionally, and helps all of our relationships, as well as plants the seed for a good rebirth in the future. So take a moment and see if you can spread the love and compassion to everybody, and especially the people that you don't get along with, because they're important too. So it's been very convenient, the BBC's people have given, because then I can take that into the talk in the afternoon. Okay, so the question came up after the BBC when we were having lunch. To get ordained, do your parents need to consent? Okay. Now, when I was, wanted my teachers, because most of we were kind of the first cohort of Westerners to come along. So they wanted our parents to agree, if possible, because it's just nicer. You don't want to create bad feelings with somebody's parents, and you don't want to break up families. On the other hand, sometimes parents don't agree. So what do you do then? Okay, so that's going to depend on the individual. Yeah. In my particular case, my parents didn't agree. But my Lama, my teacher, said, it was fine to go ahead and ordain because he knew that I had talked to my parents and, I didn't expect them to agree at all. Yeah. I mean, if you know your parents as human beings and their habits and their background, you get some kind of idea. They still surprise you, but you get some kind of idea of what they might say. Yeah. So in my case, my parents were not religious, even in their own religion. Yeah, they weren't at all interested in Buddhism. Um, I was the oldest child in the family. I did well in school. So they wanted me to get a good job, rake in a lot of money, and give them grandchildren after getting married. And, that just wasn't for me. My mom would have really liked going shopping with her daughter, and my dad wished I could play tennis, and I have horrible hand-eye coordination, and I hate shopping. So my poor parents were really stuck with me. Yeah, my brother was, he was the next one. He did everything that I was supposed to do. Yeah. And my sister did, she came years later, she did pretty well too. So, my folks didn't agree. I wasn't surprised. I understood them, Yeah, I mean, because I grew up in a family that wasn't interested in spiritual matters. Yeah, so I changed, they're not gonna, that doesn't mean they're gonna change. Yeah, I mean, they were interested in, like I mentioned to you yesterday, real estate, stocks and bonds, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and for me, boring. Yeah. So, we're just different kinds of people, but we can still get along. We can still love each other. Well, what they did in my case is they asked me to leave. They didn't want to talk to me again. And so I left. I had gone back to visit them, And so I went back to India and I got ordained. And I am always a good daughter. Yeah. I knew that my parents would worry if they didn't hear from me. Okay. And the last thing you want is for Jewish parents to worry about you. Yeah, because they will have Interpol searching the globe to find you. Yeah. So, so I wrote them for every month. Yeah, about the weather, basically, but just so that they would know that I was okay. And after a couple of years, maybe 2-3 years, I was at a Dharma center in Italy, and somebody came and said, your parents just called. And my first thought, because I hadn't heard from them, was, uh-oh, who died? Well, nobody died. My brother was getting married. And they wanted me to come back for the wedding and look normal. Okay, I was supposed to look normal. So the women at the meditation center, at the Dharma center, dressed me up in some kind of clothes because I knew if I arrived wearing robes at LA International Airport, my mother would start screaming and have a fit, which would be a little bit inconvenient and embarrassing. So I I let my hair grow about, so it was like that. And I went back, and that was nice. I attended the wedding. They wanted me to walk down the aisle with my grandma, so I did that. Yeah, and what was interesting, let me think, was it that visit? Yes, it was. It was like the first time I went back wearing robes, because I wore lay clothes for a while. Then I went back and I wore robes. When my brother got married, I was already ordained. So then my mother really surprised me because they wanted to go somewhere. And they said, well, on our way there, there's this big Buddhist temple there. Would you like to stop? And I almost fainted. Fortunately, I didn't. And I said, okay. But if we go to a Buddhist temple, I have to wear my robes. Because until that point, I was just wearing the clothes that the women at the Dharma Center gave me. So I put on my robes. We went there. They were having an ordination, and 2 of my Dharma friends were there observing it. And they were having tea at the time we arrived. And so we all sat down to have tea with them. And my 2 friends, Venerable Karma-Lekshe Somo and Venerable Jampa Sedron, started talking to my parents, and I just slipped out and went for a walk. And they talked, and after a while I went back, and then it was time to leave, and we got in the car, and my parents said, your friends are so nice. The implication was, it's only our daughter who's weird. But that's okay. It's a step in the right direction. And then another few years went by. They didn't write or call or nothing. And I wrote to them every month. And then this time, where was I? Maybe it was Switzerland or something. Anyway, they were coming there on a holiday. And so I met them for a few days. That went well. Then, another few years went by. I'm writing every month, no contact from them. And then I was living in Hong Kong, and then they came. They were on some kind of tour, stopping at Hong Kong. So there, because I was staying with people there, they were just starting a Dharma center. And the couple who was starting the Dharma Center had a business in Kowloon. So they took my friends to their business. And it was like, and one of the other people in the Dharma group, I think he had like a BMW, some expensive car. And afterwards, I didn't go, I'm like, wow, your friends are really nice, They have such a nice business, such a nice car. They're really friendly people. you know, the unsaid implication is, why can't you just be normal like them? But, you know, so people may wonder, well, why did I go ahead and ordain if my parents were so against it? Yeah. The reason was that I knew exactly how my parents would have liked me to turn out, you know, and yeah, and I didn't turn out that way. And I thought, even if I tried to be the kind of daughter that they wanted, they still wouldn't be happy. Yeah, because I could never really be that daughter. And even if I were in samsara, we never have any satisfaction. I mean, Mick Jagger was right. I can't get no satisfaction. And that was my parents. I knew no matter what I did, they wouldn't be happy with it, even if I went to all the mother-daughter fashion shows with my mom, even if I learned how to play tennis with my dad. You know, it still wouldn't have worked. But what I did know was that if I stayed in lay life, I would have accumulated incredible negative karma. Yeah, because I had a lot of attachment, a lot of anger, jealousy, pride, the whole 9 yards. And I knew if I stayed in that situation, I would just be acting with those kinds of motivations and accumulate so much negative karma. And I still wouldn't satisfy my parents, still wouldn't make them happy. I'd wind up with a rebirth in the lower realms. And you're born in the lower realms and you can't help anybody, yourself or your parents or anybody else. And so, it made sense to me that if I did my best or tried to do my best in practicing, yeah, that, maybe in future lives, then I could be able to talk about the Dharma with my parents and, and help them on the path. Yeah, so I went ahead and ordained. My teacher knew about it. It was fine with him. I was married, so he was more concerned, I think, with my husband, but that all worked out very well too. Um, so yeah, so that verse that we chanted at lunch, yeah, it's really about you're leaving the householder life, you're leaving the family life. And there's one line in the ordination ceremony where it says, the king cannot make you a subject. Your parents cannot make you their child. Yeah. In other words, when you ordain, yeah, you're a monastic. That's who you are. Yeah. Of course, you don't go and tell your parents that. That's not something that's going to create a good relationship. But you're kind, you're sweet. It's what Venerable Lamsel mentioned about she being with her parents. She saw her buttons and what she needed to work on, and that's what's very interesting and very actually productive in our practice, to be with our parents and our family from time to time. Not always, not often, but from time to time, because families have so many dynamics and we have so many habits of how we relate to different family members. Yeah. And it's so easy when families get together, everybody replays their role. Yeah. And we personally have buttons, things that we're sensitive about, and our family knows what our buttons are. And so people know exactly how to push the button, or even they don't intend to push the button. You know, we have great big buttons that we don't tell everybody about, but they're great big buttons. And if anybody just even walks past them, the movement of the air makes the alarm go crazy. You don't even have to press the button, okay? So, you know, our buttons are our responsibility. They're not somebody else's responsibility. Yeah, they're ours. We have to own them. We can't sit there and expect everybody else to change. It always kinds of interests me when people talk about setting boundaries. Yeah, I have to have a boundary in this relationship. And to me, that sounds so, you know, okay, I'm building a wall, and then I expect everybody in the world to see that wall and honor that wall and cooperate and not ask any questions. But why am I building a wall? Because I'm afraid, you know. Why am I afraid? Well, that's the interesting thing. So, yeah, what I noticed that time when I went back when my brother was getting married, one morning I was having breakfast with my mom, my future sister-in-law, and my sister. And in the middle of breakfast before the wedding, my mom said, oh, I have a very long maroon dress, and I thought it would be really nice if you wore this at the wedding. And I'm like 30-something years old at that time. I said, okay, end of discussion. Okay. After breakfast, my sister and future sister-in-law said, we can't believe that she told you what to wear, and we can't believe that you just said okay. And I was able to say okay because I no longer needed to assert my independence. When I was 16, if they told me what to wear, this was threatening my autonomy. I got upset. But here was one thing, one button that had gotten resolved. Yeah, they can tell me what to wear. It makes them happy. Okay, I'll do it. End of story. Okay. So to be able to see what you have, how you have changed, yeah. And then when you do get triggered, because your family knows how to say things, then you know what you need to work on. Yeah. Another time, I had I had been in Israel, and they had teaching, and they had a morning talk show, kind of like Good Morning Israel, something like that, you know, like they have in America. So they interviewed me. So I got the video. I thought, oh, this will make my parents happy. Their daughter was on TV. They'll like this. So I brought it back. I showed it to them. Yeah. In the interview, they had asked me something about rebirth. Yeah. And I had answered it. Well, that's what they saw in the video when they interviewed me. And the comment was, how can somebody intelligent like you believe in that? Oh, no, I'm not going to try and explain it to you. Yeah. Yeah. But it was good for me. I saw, oh, I don't need to be triggered. You know, it was kind of a snide remark, but I don't need to be triggered. It's like, okay. So these things with our families, can be very helpful to show you what you need to work on and also the progress that you've made. Okay. What finally happened in this whole thing with my parents is that after some years, maybe after 10, 15, maybe like 15 years or something, then I was visiting them again. I didn't go often to visit them, and when I stayed, it was only a short time. But yeah, what was it? Which story was I going to tell you? I lost my train of thought. Okay, I was going back. Yeah, it was about buttons. I see, I'm trying to think. Oh, yes. So, I was talking with my sister, and she said, I heard Mom talking to one of her friends on the phone, and she was telling her all about you and said, my daughter, is invited to places to give speeches, and they pick her up at the airport. And this made my mom so happy. It's like, my daughter gets picked up at the airport. Yeah. So we never talked about what happened all those years of not communicating. But I have a little saying, which is, give your parents a chance and they'll grow up. Yeah, what they used to say about you when you were a teenager. She'll grow up, just give her time. So, but it's true, your parents will adapt to the change. If you're kind and you talk to them, if you're like, I don't talk to you, you're not a Buddhist, all you do is criticize me. That's not going to work. Yeah. In terms of what do I talk to my parents about? Well, as they got older, they watched TV more. In fact, almost all day. Now, my mom loved Hillary Clinton. Yeah, the family was always Democrat, but my mom was all for Hillary. In fact, when she died, my sister put a Hillary sticker on my mom's headstone. Mom would have liked it. Yeah. But they watched television all day. So if I wanted to talk to them, I had to sit in the room with the television. I hate TV. And then I used to hate commercials. When I visited my parents, I liked commercials because at that time I could say, okay, turn the volume off and let's talk. So that's the time we talked, was during the commercial. Yeah, and then when the show came back on, so did everything else. Yeah, and I had to stay there and watch it with them. But I quickly learned to see television, media, things like that. It's all kind of a Lamrim teaching. It's all a teaching about karma. Yeah, all the characters, yeah, they all want to be happy. Are they creating the causes of happiness? What made them have those kind of roles? And especially the news, there is I want to say it's with real people. I don't know if those people are real, because everything's so, you create a face for the public, yeah. But yeah, it teaches you the Dharma, and so it's useful in that way. Okay, so of course, I just had to detour and talk about my favorite topic, me. But I do that so that you have some idea of, what happens with people. Other people, their parents are so happy that they're ordaining, yeah. And then other people their parents are puzzled. It's really, yeah, a hodgepodge. But people do change. Yeah, they do change. And I think the key is to just be kind to them. If you have things with your parents, if you're like, yeah, I can't stand them, I'm creating a boundary, and they cannot talk about this in my life, or I will walk away. Okay, you want to live your life like that? Okay, it's your life. But it's not going to make you or anybody else happy, and it's not going to ease the relationships. Yeah. One interesting thing, I'll give you a tip. If your parents you can tell that they're going to start needling you with something or whatever, change the subject. Or maybe your parents are going to get into some dialogue that they've had 50 million times, or maybe your siblings are going to have the same jealous, competitive argument that they've had. Who knows? I mean, in families, families are like this. Anyway, it's very good to change the topic and just pick out one word in what somebody said and talk about that topic, bring it around to another way of viewing that, and they'll go along and they hardly ever notice. Yeah. So we don't have to defend ourselves and prove ourselves and anything like that. I think that's not to say that I had a great relationship with my parents. When I was a teenager and early 20s, not a good relationship at all. Yeah. But it was really the Buddha Dharma that helped me change and helped me accept my parents, And when I accepted them, then the relationship got much better. Okay. Because one day in my meditation, it just struck me, because I always wanted my parents to be different. I wanted them to accept me for who I was. Yeah, not for who they wanted me to be. I wanted them to love and accept me for who I was, and they weren't. And so I was so upset and angry and blah, blah. And it struck me one day, I don't accept, it struck me, I'm complaining that my parents don't accept me for who I am, but I'm not accepting them for who they are. I want them to be different. And that was like, whoa. Yeah. And then the meditation on the kindness of the parents, then I had to really start looking at the kindness of my parents. And when I did, combined with my wanting to learning to accept them for what they were, then the relationship really got much, much better. Yeah. And I still wasn't the daughter they wanted, but it was okay then. Yeah. I was a vegetarian. What are we supposed to cook for you when you visit? Yeah. I don't know, Mom. Doesn't matter. I'll cook something. You know. So you just yeah. They have their habits. They have their view on the world. I saw my grandma, and she didn't understand this whole thing about Buddhism and ordination and everything. She was very old school. She was an immigrant. All four of my grandparents were immigrants. And all she knew was I was leaving my husband. And she said, who's going to take care of you when you're old if you don't have children? Yeah, she was really concerned with me. And then I looked at her situation. She had 2 kids, my uncle and my dad, and she wasn't living with either of them. She was living in an old folks' home. No, actually, she was still living on her own at that time, but then she got moved into an old folks' home, you know? So it was interesting. I mean, she said that because she was so concerned with me when I got old, and, you know. And I'm sitting there meditating on death, wondering, you know, death could come at any time. Yeah, but yeah, you just accept them. That's it. Yeah. And appreciate them for what they did do for you.
Venerable, could you talk about your dad's visit here?
My dad's what? Oh. Why don't you talk about my dad's visit here? This was after my mom had died. It was the Abbey's
maybe 10th
10th anniversary. Yeah.
So knowing Venerable, because during the EMLs, part of trying to make peace with this whole aspiration of ordination, how it's going to land with our parents. So we had heard Venerable's story about the difficulties and things like that. But as years went on, when it came to the 10th anniversary, we would do these celebrations here and do some slides of the growth of the Abbey and the community and the buildings, and have a big celebration with a cake and pujas and things like that. So on the 10th one, I don't know whether Venerable from your side, but we got Bernie here. And he was already then in his 80s.
Yeah. Must have been. Yeah.
And we just adopted him. He came into this community and ended up having all these kids. At that time, we were just maybe 10 of us, maybe 8 or 9. There weren't a lot of us here. But, he'd come to the table in the morning. He'd have his, New York Times or something. And we just sort of folded him into the day. And he just was really surprised and delighted to see what his daughter had accomplished.
Yeah.
And that we all welcomed him with a lot of warmth. We did a whole slide presentation where he got to see how this place kind of was created, and the people and the work and the time and the resources and the contractors. And I don't think he really understood what Venerable was actually doing here until he came here physically. And then to be able to be part of the celebration, where to see what this means in the world from a Buddhist, for world peace and for the continuation of goodness and love in the world. We've got a picture of him with the community in a photograph that is just one of the most beautiful pictures we have. I think he spent a week with us, maybe. He got to meet the architect. He got to meet old friends and people who worked here, the plumber, the excavator, and we had to have breakfast. We try to get breakfast that an elder man could eat. Had some Danish every once in a while, some bagels, some bagels and cream cheese. And he just, I think his heart really opened up to what was happening here and what his daughter had actually was doing in an open-hearted way.
Yeah, he fell asleep during
of the time.
during the celebration and all the presentations, and he just dozed off like most of you during teachings. Yeah. And he'd sit there.
And then he'd wake up and look at
Yeah.
a few slides, and then he'd doze off
Yeah.
again. But
And then he loved the chant that we did on Mondays.
the
This
37 practices of bodhisattvas.
Sattvas, with the refrain of "This is the practice of bodhisattvas." He loved that. Yeah. But he was hilarious because, we ate in, the first part of lunch in silence. And so one time he was sitting there, and Pat, we had made friends with an older couple who lived kind of around the corner. And so Pat was there sitting, and Dad was across from Pat. And we're sitting in silence. And then my dad says to Pat, "It's really quiet here, isn't it?" Yeah.
We'd also taken him for a drive in the vehicle to see the property, because we wanted him to see it. And he gets up to the top of the meadow, and he gets out of the car, and he says, "Boy, I could really drive a nine." He played golf.
Yeah.
He wanted to just get
To
out
hit
there
the
and
ball
hit the ball
across
all the way
the
across
other
the There'd be a good driving range up at the top of the meadow. He could see that as something he could work out.
So, yeah. So,
What I appreciate here is having watched various people's families come, like my own, Venerable Deki's, Venerable Monlam's, Venerable Phuntsok, so many people's families come, and they just get wrapped in love by yourself, by everyone. And it's so beautiful to watch, because at first people are just like, what is this? And then they just get wrapped in love by so many people, and then they relax, and then they're having fun, and then I remember my own parents, they said, "You live with such lovely people." It's like, they're like, wow. I'm like, yes. They felt at ease because they knew I was taken care of.
yeah.
And because it's just like, they're normal people with really kind hearts. I love watching when families come and just how they are embraced and held. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. And we really encourage people to invite their families to come. Yeah. We think it's really good for the family, the individual monastic, and the community. And so, yeah, most people's parents at one time or another come. Yeah. Yeah, even Venerable Damcha's parents who live in Singapore, they've come. Not everybody's parents have come, but yeah, we really encourage that. We like it. Yeah. Okay, so that was something. Yeah, if you, having to do with, okay, let me take the other thing that came up at lunch. Okay, so Sunny had said, I have to find a guru. How do I find a guru? Yeah. So, I wanted to say, look in the yellow pages. But, yellow pages are old-fashioned. Go on Craigslist. Yeah. See. Because somebody had told her, you have to find a guru. And, so how do you find a guru? First of all, if you are going around and the first thing in your mind is, I have to find a guru, I think you're approaching it in a way that's going to get you tangled up. Because the most important thing is that you listen to the Dharma and you connect with the Dharma. That's the important thing. Yeah, you can have 10 gazillion gurus, but if you don't like what they teach and you don't connect with what they teach, then it's useless. Yeah. So the principal thing is your relationship with the Dharma. Yeah. And then from that, automatically, you have respect and gratitude for whoever taught you the Dharma, because that Dharma has touched you in the heart so deeply. It's helped you to, give meaning to your life and make your life beneficial. Yeah. So I don't think you need to go around on a guru search. Yeah. And even for me, just, it was, I was telling them at lunch, I had gone to one talk of, in LA. It happened to be, I found later, Trungpa, but I didn't click with it. And then I saw a flyer at Bodhi Tree Bookstore, any of you know LA, and for a 3-week meditation course. I knew nothing. I didn't know difference between Buddhism and Hinduism, between different kinds of Buddhism. I didn't know anything, period. Yeah. But okay, some of my friends were starting to meditate. I was a teacher. I had summer off. I'll go. And one of the first things the teacher said, who happened to be Lama Yeshe and Zopa Rinpoche, were, you don't need to believe anything we say. Oh, good. Yeah, because, I was so sick at that time of people telling me the truth with a capital T. And I had explored other religions, but so many of them have a threat in there that if you don't accept them, you're going to be born in hell. And I just thought that doesn't make any sense. That you have to take a loyalty test. Anyway, so I was not going to be interested in anything where you had to believe or else. But they said, we'll teach, think about it. If it makes sense to you, good. If it doesn't, put it on the back burner. Here are the meditations, practice them. If they help you, keep on. If they don't, leave it. So I like that kind of open space. So I had actually signed up for 2 weeks of the 3-week retreat, and I stayed all 3 weeks. And then I did a retreat after that in somebody's home with some of the people from the course. And the Dharma just really struck me very deeply, and answered so many of the questions I had, because I was always wondering, why am I alive? How did I get here? What does it mean to be alive? And what's the purpose of my life? And Buddhism really spoke to those kind of questions, which I think are quite important questions in our life. We want to live a meaningful life. So I just kept going back. And I stayed the whole 3 weeks, and then I established a meditation practice, and I had a very strong feeling that if I don't learn more about this Buddhism stuff, I was going to regret it when I died. And so I quit my job and went back to Asia. I had been to Asia before. And my husband came with. And so I just kept going back to the same teachers, because what they taught just really made so much sense to me. And also they were such good examples of what they taught. They were kind people. And they were, very open-minded people. So I really thought, wow, they're exceptional. I want to be like that. So I kept going back, and I never went and formally said, will you be my guru or anything. I think they got the idea because I kept going, I kept showing up. So, okay, she's here again. I guess she's one of our students. Um, you know? And yeah, okay. So I think that's the important thing. And then also I was saying to Sunny that everybody who is a teacher isn't necessarily a qualified teacher. And even many qualified teachers, they may be your friends' teachers, but that doesn't mean that you have the karma with them, okay? Because so much depends on our karma, our aptitude, our dispositions. It depends on who you click with, basically, yeah. And yeah, but it's always very good to check out somebody's qualities because, it is a spiritual supermarket out there. And there's always new gurus who have the fast way to enlightenment. Only 5 minutes a day, and you can listen to your favorite music while you're meditating. And it's only $99.99 special this week, so sign up. Yeah, some of you may have signed up. Yeah, but I think it's, when we start to get more of a feeling for what a spiritual path means, well, it's not just looking at the glitter, yeah, and it's really looking at who is a good role model for you, who can guide you, yeah, and I didn't have to shop around. I just kept on with the same teachers. I was quite fortunate that way. But then, as I looked at, kind of in the Tibetan community and what was going on as more and more teachers came and started teaching in the West, it's a whole spiritual supermarket. And as His Holiness says, there are some people who are not important in India or Nepal, but they come to the West and all of a sudden they are Lama, His Eminence, His Holiness, Lama XYZ, Rinpoche, Tulku, the one and only, Dorji Chong, and yeah, and yeah, he said in their own country, they're nobody special. They come to the West and all of a sudden very special, And of course, the students are very glad because they want to have the most special teacher who sits on the highest throne. Yeah, you don't want a teacher who sits just on an ordinary seat when His Holiness teaches and tens of thousands are there. You want to have a teacher who sits on a higher throne than all the other teachers. His Holiness said one time that sometimes the students are so concerned with that before the teaching starts, they go and they put something under their teacher's seat so that their teacher is higher. Yeah. So, and people are impressed by brocade. So, the teachers that have the highest seat, the most brocade, And of course, the hat. Okay. Do they have the red hat, the yellow hat, the black hat? Yeah. Here we have sun hats. Yeah. But some people, they want to see, because boy, Tibet, what a thing for hats. Yeah. And musical instruments and brocade and, stuff that is, I watch because a lot of times when lamas go to Southeast Asia to teach, the Chinese love to ask for rituals, for a long life initiation, for pujas and things like that, yeah. And so they request that, the lamas do that. But it seems to be, because the lamas are doing all their stuff in Tibetan, that hardly anybody in the audience understands. But it's as if, the less I understand, the more of a blessing I'm getting. Because they must be talking about something really esoteric, really profound, because they're playing a bell and waving this funny looking thing, and playing the small drum, the big horns, the big drum, the round cymbals, the flat cymbals, Tibetan Buddhism, it's something's really happening. It can keep you entertained for a while. And so some people choose their teachers based on that. And that's not such good criteria. Yeah. You want to check a teacher's morality. Do they keep their precepts well? Yeah. Who have they studied with? Are their teachers reliable teachers? How long have they studied? Yeah. Do they know the teachings well? Are they teaching with kindness? Do they have compassion for their students? Yeah. Or are they trying to collect a lot of money and a long stream of followers? So in the sutras it talks about, and the commentaries it talks about the qualities of good teachers. So we should look for those qualities and look at the groups, that they're groups of disciples, because if you follow that teacher, you will join that group and you will start being like the rest of them. So, I was shocked one time when somebody here was telling me that after teachings in his Dharma group, they were in London, they all went to the pub, study Dharma, and then go to the pub. Weird, So just, look at how the people relate and to each other and to you. Yeah, because you get more of an idea of the teacher. Okay, so that's something for everybody. I know for me, just when I wanted to ordain, I just, of course, went to ask my teachers. Yeah, because the thing to get settled in your mind first is, what tradition are you following? Are you really a Buddhist? And among the different Buddhist traditions, kind of, is there one that just really speaks to your heart? This doesn't mean you need to go and sample all of them, okay, before you decide. Yeah, I call that the 31 flavors approach. Yeah, 31 flavors, ice cream. Yeah, and you go in and you want to taste a little bit of each of the, now they have many more than 31, 53, however, what it is, flavors. You taste all of them, and then at the end you leave, and that's it. So that's like somebody who bounces around. They go to one teacher and another teacher and another tradition and this tradition, that tradition, because they really want to sample everything, and they find something wrong with everything. and at the end, they don't really wind up practicing anything. Yeah. So sometimes, you need to go to a few things till something really clicks, but it's got to be the Dharma that clicks. Yeah. Not the teacher's personality. Okay. Because some people, it is true, our teacher's personality does make a difference, and our teachers can be incredible role models for us. Yeah. But this isn't, it shouldn't be a cult of personality. Yeah. It's we revere our teachers because of their wisdom, because we appreciate their kindness, we respect what they do for us and for the world. Yeah. But we don't have to be groupies who are, yeah. I've gone to big events. I remember one of them, His Holiness's teachings, and some people from following another teacher were coming and saying, "Our teacher has realized emptiness. You should hear him speak about emptiness. Every time he does, tears come to his eyes. You can really tell that he has realization." Yeah. And I went, because that teacher actually was a very, very controversial one. Yeah, very controversial, the way he was acting and so on. But these people, that's, what kind of hooked them. Sometimes your teacher does cry during teachings. It's okay, they're talking about something that, moves them to tears. But that's, not the quality that you look for, Somebody who cries a lot, if you have stock in the tissue company, then you like that person, Yeah. But yeah, that's not the criteria. Okay. And about whether, deciding whether to ordain or not, because people come here, should I ordain? Should I not ordain? Should I ordain? I want to ordain for this. Should I not ordain? Please tell me, should I ordain? Don't ask me if you should ordain. Okay, first of all, because if I told you, you would say yes, but, and ignore what I said. And second of all, why should I tell you? It is your life and your choice, and you have to be responsible for your decisions. Yeah. If you ask me, I want the whole world to ordain. Yeah. But I don't go around telling everybody that. Yeah, and I don't tell anybody that because it's people's individual decisions, and they have to see if it fits for them. And you don't have to sit and ask yourself again and again, should I ordain, shouldn't I ordain? How am I going to look if I cut my hair? I had one friend, he didn't want to ordain because there was some weird formation, of his skull, and it would show. So he wasn't going to ordain. He actually wound up ordaining. Good for him. But, it's like once somebody asked me if they should marry somebody. It's like, God, you're asking me if you should marry somebody? I just met you 5 minutes ago. I never met him. And even if I knew you both very well, I am not going to tell you. Because I don't know, So, and also we have a precept not to do matchmaking. Yeah. But, yeah, so I think, about ordaining, you don't have to sit there and struggle to make a decision. You need to practice the Dharma. Yeah, you set up a daily Dharma practice, with some meditation, some reading. You go to retreats if your teacher doesn't live nearby where you are. I moved on the other side of the planet to be near my teacher. I'm not saying everybody has to do that. But you go, you have to be the one to go and make that personal connection. It's very important to sit in the same room and have that connection. And you make the effort as the student, to create that relationship. And then I think the decision so often just makes itself. You don't need to fret about it. Yeah. What you do need to think about is, what's my attachment doing to my life? Yeah. What happens when I follow attachment? What happens when I follow anger? What kind of karma do I create? What kind of rebirth will I have? How are my relationships this life affected? Is attachment a reliable cognizer? Is my anger the correct view of the situation? Those are the questions you need to be asking yourself. Not, does my teacher have more beautiful brocade than your teacher? That is not the issue. Okay. So, questions, comments? Yeah.
Venerable, coming to the parent discussion, when I visit my family, my pain is in seeing how they are suffering, how awful they are treating each other, and how hard it is just to witness that, because I love them profoundly. And I see like, oh, they are doing that thing to each other.
Who is what?
They are doing that thing to each other, like it's very hard to see. But they go out and they're like, okay, no, let's go now do this thing, and then but all day is this like poking each other. I was like, oh no, they are doing that, and it's painful. It's like seeing cruelty and torture. So, what advice you have for that? I don't accept them as they are, because it's very painful to see the people I love doing harm to each other and harming themselves, and then having these ways in which they want to be happy, but they just hurt each other deeply, profoundly, and then they call each other family, and they get along with that because that's how they are. So I'm like, I don't belong. I am leaving. This is too much. It's so much. I don't want to come to the meeting because I am profoundly affected when I see them hurting each other.
Yeah. Okay. So they quarrel and push each other's buttons and yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is very hard to see, especially when it's people that you really care about and you want them to be happy. But it's very interesting. how people, and this often happens when in marriages, I think, when people, and in families in general, you get to know somebody so well that you know how to push buttons, and that's how they relate to each other. Yeah, they that's their habitual way of doing. So we may look at it and say they're suffering so much, and they're just hurting each other and creating negative karma. But and sometimes they may actually say, I'm miserable, but other times it's like, well, we've been together 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and I love them, but this is how we talk to each other. Yeah. So it's uncomfortable for you to see. You're not going to be able to change them. What I would advise is when you visit them, well, first of all, don't live with them. Yeah. But when you visit, and this is what I did with my folks, I would stay 3-4 days. Yeah. Because you see them for 3-4 days. They're very happy to see you. Yeah. And you can, just devote your time to them. Like I said, I watch these horrible programs on TV and just be able to talk to them during the commercials. But you do that, and that's good enough. It keeps them happy because they know that you're happy. They know that you love them because you come to see them. But you don't get all enmeshed in the family drama. Yeah. And this is something to be careful of, because in the ordination, you are leaving the family life. Yeah. And families have dramas, don't they? Sometimes the drama is about, how you put the toothpaste and cap back on it in the bathroom, or whether you don't put the cap on the toothpaste and it leaks all over. And, and by the way, you not only do that, but you make a mess in the room, and you don't do the dishes and this and this and this. And then they're off and running, with a big fight about something. This is a very good teaching for you about the nature of samsara. Yeah, this is samsara. And when you think about how people form relationships and marriages and romantic relationships, this is how they often turn out. Yeah. So then you have to think, well, is this something that I want to do in my life? Form that kind of relationship. And you start asking yourself, do I know anybody who has a happy marriage? 100% happy. Do you know anybody who has 100% happy marriage? Little bit?
Pretty close.
Yeah. You see them when they quarrel?
I don't see them quarrel.
Oh, so that means they get that they have a perfect marriage because they stuff it all. No, they're duplicates of each other. Anyway, so yeah, we did have one person. Oh, where is he? Oh, there you are. We had one person who became what his parents wanted him to become, and we have one person who kind of knows somebody with a perfect marriage. Yeah. So we have unique things. Don't say it can never happen. Yeah. Yeah. But she has that. I don't know. I don't know anybody with a perfect marriage. And I was married to a very nice man. Do I want to be married? Mm-mm. Yeah. Why? What? Yeah, is that a good reason to get married? That's like your teacher wanting you to ordain. What do you do? Your parents say, oh, he's a nice boy, get married. Yeah, and you say, yep, okay, make the wedding, mom and dad. I don't care what's his name, by the way. I'll marry whoever you say. Yeah. Yes.
Met this one woman, and she like loved her husband so much, but she's 26 and she has a cancer diagnosis and she's gonna die in less than 5 years. So she has the perfect husband, and then she's not gonna see it through.
Yeah. And eventually, even you have the perfect one, kind of. Is it who was it with the prince on the white horse? Was that Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella? I get them mixed up. Sleeping Beauty? Snow White. Oh, so there's another one. Okay. So Snow White, you're Snow White. Yeah, and Prince Charming, kind of arrived complete with his riding on his white horse. Yeah. Are you really going to live happily ever after? Yeah. Is that really going to be it? Uh-huh. What was your question again? Or your comment?
I said that I met a woman who like had the perfect husband.
Oh, and she had a cancer diagnosis. Yeah. Well, even you have that perfect thing, eventually somebody's going to die and you're going to have to separate. Yeah. And so whenever there's attachment, there's going to be pain, either because you're so attached that you don't want to separate, but you have to, because everything that comes together is going to separate, or you haven't reached that point, but you create a point where you can't stand to be with this person again. Yeah. So this is, if you look in your mind how when you really are attached to something, attachment is a whole setup for misery. Yeah. So they are giving you a real live Dharma teaching. You don't have to read it in books. You just look at the way they're working, they're functioning. And then you think about how you want to live your life. What are your values? How do you want to treat other people? Yeah. So this is something I did often when I went to visit my parents, especially at the beginning. Because, let me think, I can't remember if it was the same trip when my brother was getting married. It might have been. Anyway, it was many years ago. Okay, and one of my cousins was getting married. And the way I practice with my parents is, I had my altar in the room and I pack it away after I finish my morning practice. And in the evening, I would think about, everything that I heard in the family and everything I watched. And then I compare it with the Buddha's perspective on that kind of situation or that kind of relationship. So, so my cousin was getting married, and they were at his fiancée's family's house, and my aunt, my cousin's mother, went to bathe. It was the morning of the wedding, and she didn't come out of the bathroom, and eventually somebody went in, and she was dead in the bathtub. And this was the morning that my cousin Alan was getting married. His mom died. Okay. So there was going to be a lunch that day, and I, with the family, and I was supposed to go. I wanted to stay home and make some prayers for my aunt. Yeah. But my family was saying, what? She's dead. You can't do anything. Just leave it. The family's coming together. Come be with us. Have some good food. You'll enjoy being with everybody. Just forget about that. Anyway, we didn't like her. It's true. They didn't like that aunt. I liked her, but anyway, yeah, I won't tell you all about my family, but yeah. So so for me, it was like, okay, this is such a good meditation. How worldly people think, oh, somebody died. Well, don't let that stop you from going out and having a good lunch and being with the family. And that evening, because they went ahead and had the wedding, they stopped the music. They didn't have any music at it. But when we were there, and another uncle was talking to our cousin and telling him all about the will and how to be the executor of the will and the whole thing. And I'm like, my goodness, my cousin's there. His mom just died. And my uncle's talking about money. Of course, it's my family, Money's important. Will is important. But this was such a good opportunity for me. It's like, okay, this is really how worldly people operate. Yeah, death doesn't let you stop you. Prayers are useless. Talk about who gets the money and how to divide things. Told my cousin, you're an only child. It'll be okay. You don't have any, this. And I thought, and then you compare that to the way, if I'm a Buddhist, what I would do, And I was thinking about my teachers, and what we do is we do prayers for the person, and create some merit and dedicate for them. So it became, my point in telling you this long story is you take whatever you experience in life and whatever you see in life, and you compare that to the teachings. And then that helps you really see the difference between kind of the worldly way of thinking and how the Buddha thought. And then you can figure out how you want to live, and what your values are and what's important to you. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you find many Dharma teachers in the places where you don't necessarily expect them. But if your eyes are open, especially the people who push your buttons are very good Dharma teachers.
May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of wholesome teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the three worlds always increase. Iram Gurana Mandalakam
Niriyatayami. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.